Okay, what are the 5 stages of the Gray Rhino?
So the Gray Rhino starts out with denial. That's, it's right there and everybody's looking the other way. It's similar to the classic elephant in the room, but it's different because it's actually much more dynamic. It's coming at you, and I wanted people to realize that they have a choice. The definition of the elephant in the room is it does nothing. Nobody does anything, and I want to say let's not take that for granted anymore. So denial is when you come up with reasons why something's not a problem. And it's not complete coincidence that the first stage is denial and that there are 5 of them, because when I was thinking about how these crises unfolded, I, of course, thought of denial, and then I thought of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's book on Death and Denying, the 5 Stages of Grief. So I ran out and got that book. And it didn't have to be 5 stages, but it fit nicely that way. So the second stage is muddling. Muddling is when it's there, you acknowledge it's a problem, but you come up with all sorts of reasons not to do anything about it. The third stage I call diagnosing. You might think about the blaming stage. It's like, okay, if I do this, it'll solve the problem. And that's a really complicated stage because not everybody is always on the same page about what to do. And so getting on the same page about what the problem is and what the solution is, because often you can't come up with a good solution until people actually agree about the problem. The fourth stage is panic. That's the stage when everybody says, we're going to do something. Somebody do something now. And it's a double-edged sword because it's the momentum that you need to make something happen. But if you haven't used the earlier stages of the crisis to really come up with a good plan, you are much more likely to make the wrong decision instead of the right decision. So it's a complicated stage. And the final one is action. And if you can get from denial to action and leapfrog all the ones in the middle, you're way ahead of everybody else. But action is when you're actually doing something. It usually starts with one person or a few people who are crazy in a good way, who've seen it, who are way ahead of other people, say we've got to do something about this, and they start a movement. The people around them finally grab onto it, and then another circle around them. So they start this snowball that starts moving. The problem with action is that usually it's not nearly as soon as it ought to be. Sort of day late, dollar short. Not necessarily. And actions also might be what you think is the wrong action. Sometimes you go in a zigzag. You don't get to the right place right away. I think about New Coke, which every business school looks at as an example of a marketing fiasco. But the truth is that Coke really did the right things. They saw the market share falling, they tested tastes, they did focus groups, they did their homework, and what they didn't count on was really this brand loyalty, which was actually a really good thing to not know was there. So that when they saw this huge outcry against New Coke and brought back classic Coke, they handled that very well. And nobody talks about this anymore, but actually their market share started going back up again. So it looked like they made the wrong decision, but they actually made the right decision. Because you just sometimes don't get to the right place in a straight line. You got to go in a zigzag.
Took them a little longer, but they got there.
Yeah.